Good morning. Thank you for joining us as we begin week 8 of our weekly football teleconference. We will start off this morning with Morgan State University head coach Fred T. Farrier. Morgan State is coming off a loss at Howard this past weekend and will host Florida A&M on Saturday afternoon in Baltimore. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm fine. Yourself?
Doing well.
Coach, looking at last week's game, it's 17-7 in the second half, but pretty much one big play and one turnover basically turned the tide of the game. Just talk about what took place last week.
You know, it's definitely always disappointing when we're not able to punch the ball in the red zone. We got a couple opportunities early in the game to get the ball in the end zone and score points, and we come away with 2 missed field goals and an interception from the 2-yard line. You know, and that right there is 13 points, which make a huge difference in the game. You know, our offense is playing a little bit better. We're moving the ball. We're running the ball. We're kind of mixing in running pass and being able to move the ball, but we're not punching it in the end zone in critical situations. And getting the ball down inside the red zone and scoring is a must. You know, that's at any level of football, and we're not doing that when we need to. And, you know, our defense, we're a little bit depleted. We get one of our corners ejected out of the game, which makes a big difference. And then at his position, we give up a touchdown 2 or 3 plays later, you know, and that hurts you. So we've got to make sure, you know, our kids are doing the right things and playing with sportsmanlike behavior and not doing things outside of the team concept that we're asking them to do. And we got to try to keep our best players on the field. You know, and when we can do that, we're pretty competitive. And, you know, we got to find a way to punch the ball in the end zone. I think if we can get the ball in the end zone, the outcome is a little bit different. You know, we're in the game. There's a little bit more pressure on them to try to make a play versus, you know, getting out to a big lead and then kind of cruising the rest of the game. But our offense is playing better. Again, we got to find a way to punch the ball in the end zone. We will do that. And, you know, our coaches are going to keep working to get that figured out. And, you know, defensively, we got to get a couple guys healthy and get a couple guys back for us.
And also talk about this week's opponent in Florida A&M, because they're kind of a mirror image of you all, meaning last few weeks, 1 or 2 plays has basically been a difference of them winning games also. Just talk about the Rattlers from what you've seen so far during preparation.
Yeah, you know, I would agree with that. You know, I think they're a very dangerous team. Ryan Stanley is a very good quarterback. He was playing very well early in the season, wasn't turning the ball over at all, and has had a few turnovers here lately. But he is very much improved from last season. I think he understands their offense and where his coaches want them to go with the ball. So, you know, those guys are getting him better every week, and you know, he'll be a big challenge for us to defend this week. You know, they got some pretty good receivers. You know, those guys they're spreading the ball around. They got at least 5 guys with over 15 catches. Brandon Norwood is probably the leading guy who's making the most catches for him. He's got some touchdowns and he gets a bunch of touches every game. And then Chad Hunter and Marcus Williams are not far behind him. Those guys have a little bit more yards per catch average. You know, they're going to stretch the field. They got some longer pass receptions over the course of the season, and those are guys that we're going to have to defend. Then in the run game, Devin Bowers is really doing a good job for him. You know, he's well over 500 yards for the season, has some big runs in there, scoring a bunch of touchdowns, and then they're big and athletic up front on their offensive line. So, you know, we're going to have to make sure we're gap sound on defense. Guys are doing what they need to do defensively to understand, you know, where they need to be to make sure we're taking away big play opportunities and not giving up, you know, yards down the field and that type of thing. Defensively, they're very solid. You know, their coaching staff does a good job. They play a 4-man front, and they play a number of different coverages behind it, and they'll bring some pressure every now and then and try to keep you off balance. They're fundamentally sound. They don't make a lot of mistakes on defense, so it'll be really important for us to execute. You know, that's always going to be the key for us. I think the big thing for us throughout the course of the season is executing. You know, our offensive line, this will be the second or third game that our offensive line has had a chance to play together. You know, we've been playing We've been mixing in a bunch of different guys on our offensive line throughout the course of the season just due to injuries. And our offensive line has gotten better each of the last couple of weeks. So we're going to continue to put pressure on those guys to pass protect and do some things to help us in the run game and kind of control some of these guys that they have on defense. You know, they got Jabril Hazley in the middle, a big 6'2", 230-pound linebacker. Jakaris Wilson, who's kind of the dominant guy on defense. He runs around. He's hitting people all over the field. He's got a bunch of tackles for loss, sacks. He's all over the field, a very dominant player, and we'll always have to know where he is defensively in all of our schemes. And then Derek Mayweather, the other linebacker. Those guys are all over 220, 230 pounds. They're big guys, 6'2", 6'3". So they're good players. And then, you know, up front, defensive line-wise, they got some very active guys with high motors. They run to the football. They get to the quarterback. And we'll have to have a plan to try to slow those guys down. So it's going to be an exciting challenge for us. We're glad we get a chance to play at home in front of our fans. You know, I think every week we're trying to get our team better to eliminate our mistakes, eliminate the turnovers, reduce our penalties, and just try to get our football team better every week. You know, building a football team is a process. You know, we're sticking to what we believe is our process and how we're going to teach these kids. And there's some small victories along the way. Hopefully we can get to a few more big victories at the end of the game, you know, as we finish out the season with guys continuing to believe in what we're asking them to do and how we do it. You know, it's just a process. We're sticking to our process, and our kids are working hard every week trying to make sure we can come away successful at the end of games, you know, when we play on Saturdays.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. You will hear a 3-tone prompt to acknowledge your request. If your question has been answered and you would like to withdraw your registration, please press the 1 followed by the 3. One moment, please, for the first question. And our first question comes from the line of Mike Klingerman with The Sun. Please proceed.
Coach, looks like your running game is back on track. More than 200 yards rushing in each of the last 2 games. That's almost as much as you had in the first 5.
That's right. You know, and like I mentioned earlier in the call, we've had our offensive line intact, the guys who started the season intact for the last 2 weeks, and we've ran the ball better. So when you can get your best guys out there, it gives us a chance to do some things successfully. You know, as much as I'd like to think we can just put anybody out there and we can out-scheme people, the guys out there playing make a big difference. And when we can have our best guys in the game, we have a little bit more success than what we had with some other guys who are not as ready to play, you know, not strong enough, not mentally tuned in and tough enough to play at this level just yet. So having 5 somewhat healthy offensive linemen, the guys that we started the season with, has made a big difference for us the last 2 weeks, and we hope to keep those guys in place the rest of the season.
On the other hand, it must be frustrating to roll up 500 yards total offense and still lose by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, again, the big thing is we didn't cash in the red zone. You know, we got several missed opportunities in the red zone. You know, the first half we score a touchdown and we get called for pass interference. We throw an interception, which is a poor throw. That's a physical mistake in the end zone where, you know, it should be a long throw. That ball either we complete that ball or that ball has to be overthrown. It can never be underthrown, and the ball is underthrown. And then we missed 2 field goals. So you're talking about 14, 20 points of scoring opportunities that we did not get down in the red zone. We've got to find a way to punch those in, and I think if we do punch those in, the game possibly ends up completely different. You know, but football is a game of what ifs. You know, you can't talk about woulda, coulda, shoulda. None of those opportunities we scored. We've got to find a way to correct that as soon as possible so that we can get the points and we can affect the game that way. And we've got to do a better job of making sure we score points in the red zone.
Our second call this morning comes from Tallahassee, Florida, as we prepare to talk with Florida A&M head coach Alex Wood. The Rattlers fell to Hampton this past Saturday and will travel north to Morgan State on Saturday afternoon. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Ryan, good morning. Good. How are you?
I'm fine, Coach. Coach, despite what took place last week, just talk about the fight your team has put forth on the field when their backs are against the wall.
Yeah, we were able to get ourselves obviously back in the game Saturday against Hampton in the second half, and really take the lead for a short period of time, which was obviously what we desired, and tried to hold on to that lead best we possibly could, but committed some penalties that put them in favorable field position that ultimately led to a score for them, which is our fault, So when you do things like that, then it makes it tougher to win the game, to close it out and get the win. But it was good that we did compete there for 60 minutes. Came down to a fourth down call. Obviously, in the fourth quarter, as we were driving down the score, actually we had hit a run and the guy fell in the end zone, but he got called back because of a hold. So again, those kinds of things. That's a drive killing and a point killer penalty that cost us. So we got to eliminate those things.
And this week you head back north to face Morgan State, and pretty much their team, like I mentioned, Coach Bears, like you all, just one or two plays away, and you can have a different outcome. So just talk about from what you've seen early on from the Bears.
Again, a lot of similarities, obviously, trying to win games, and, a mistake here, a mistake there, and missed opportunities, in a lot of ball games. And so we're just trying to continue to work at it, and just like they are, and improve in those areas, get some of those things fixed, because obviously you like to think that they're all fixable, and then move on and compete and win a game. But they're playing well, in terms of productivity, and they've got some things they've got to address and get fixed too, and hopefully we can get ours fixed before they do, and win the game this weekend. So that's what our plan is anyway.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. We have a question from the line of Joshua Jackson with Rattler Football Network. Please proceed.
Coach Wood, good morning. How you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. The growth of your two young guys, in particular, Chad Hunter and Ricky Henryless last week especially, really kind of sparked this Rattler comeback in the second half. What are you just thinking so far with their first opportunities playing in an orange and green uniform this year? Just talk about their growth in the offense and how you think their season has gone so far.
Yeah, when starting with Chad, he's shown the ability to make plays, and we're really pleased and happy with that. And he's a local talent. He played at Rickards High School right here in Leon County, and in Tallahassee actually. But so we're excited about him, about his future, and the way he's developing, and the way he's taking coaching, and the way he plays. I mean, Ricky, again, he's a Lincoln High School graduate from right here in Tallahassee, and we're happy that with his development and the way he's playing. Just want him to continue that, remain consistent, always be ball conscious of security, and then continue to make plays. They're fun and exciting to watch.
And on the other hand, going into the second half of that contest, the first half of that game, you had just two penalties for just 15 yards, and in the second half, it seemed like things kind of snowballed for you, whether it was just penalties or you had the celebration penalty after the 91-yard touchdown to Chad Hunter that kind of put Hampton in good field position. Second half, you had 13 penalties for 127 yards. It was almost like a mirror image of what happened a few weeks ago against Norfolk State, another team up there in that Bay area. What's the message to your team to kind of overcome those penalties, whether they're effort penalties or just lack of concentration penalties? What's your message to the team to kind of overcome those things and kind of get things back on track?
Well, we're trying to analyze, and it's somewhat excessive in terms of the penalties. And as I looked at it, I pulled a report yesterday, and then most of them are holds. And what we've got to look at. We're asking our guys to finish. That's been a push from day one here as we came to camp. Alignment, assignment, and finish. And in some cases, as we look at those, our guys are trying to finish. They're within the framework. They're blocking guys, and then we just have to make sure that I guess that we're in the proper framework from the officials' view as well. And then we have some just out and out holes where we stopped running our feet and got tired in the second half. We've got those. I'm not saying that we're innocent of not holding that. That's not the case, but we also are looking at some of the calls that we're getting where guys are finishing and they're doing what we're asking them to do. So we just have to, I guess, reassess that in terms of how we're finishing and making sure it's not something that's going to cause us penalties, obviously. But it's tough, it's tough. I mean, it's tough in the trenches, and like I mentioned to our officials, you could call holding on every play. You could literally call it on every play. But I hope that's not the objective, and so we're going to look at it from our perspective and get it cleaned up, but not tell our guys not to finish on plays, because again, you have to be in the framework of the defender in order to consider that guy blocked and not effective to make the play. You guys hang up, or are you still there?
There are no further questions at this time.
Coach also just mentioned last week, if you haven't already, but once again, Ryan Stanley to 3 touchdowns, 13 of 19 passing. Just talk about him getting back to form, and especially the poise he showed to lead the team down the stretch.
Yeah, it was good to see. He protected the ball well, made some good decisions. Missed on a couple of throws, which that's going to happen, obviously. But again, yes, at this time of the year, it was unfortunate that he kind of got off track a little bit. We kind of got off track a little bit. But in terms of protecting the football, that's the ultimate, and he did a great job of that Saturday. Again, we just have to put the other pieces together.
And then one player, I guess he'd be considered an unsung hero for you is Connell, especially going to the fourth quarter. You were driving, and he hit that big 35-yard field goal to put you within 1 point. Just talk about Connell and what he's brought to your special team unit.
Well, he's beginning to get more consistent, with making field goals and PATs and that stuff. And the operation, is just that. It's an operation. It's just it's not only just a kick, but it's the hold, it's a snap, all those kinds of things. So we're getting better at all that, and when we do get better at all that, he obviously gets better, and then we get better as a team in that aspect.
And lastly, just talk about back on the road, going back north for the second week in a row, and just have you made any adjustments in terms of your preparation with the trip, or it's just going to be the same routine as usual?
No, we're going to. You want to stay in the same routine. You don't want to make any adjustments that'll get you out of your routine. Our routine has been good. In terms of preparation. From our perspective and our evaluation. In terms of how we travel and all those good things. So we'll do the same thing.
Next up, we have Bethune-Cookman head coach Terry Sims. The Wildcats fell to North Carolina A&T State this past Saturday and will return home to host Hampton for homecoming this Saturday in Daytona Beach. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good morning, Ryan. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, Coach. Coach, talk about last week's game as much as you can, as you had the Aggies on the ropes early in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm disappointed in the way our guys played, because for 3+ quarters we played pretty good football, especially defensively. I think our defensive unit, that's the best we played in a while around here. We held them to, I think it was 18 yards rushing in the first half. With the football team like A&T, that's almost unheard of, because they have a good ground game. And they had two pretty good backs that could run the football. our guys, I think, just stepped up to the challenge and played well. We just didn't finish. And that's, something that we had, talked about with our guys for a while. And you got to take your hat off to Coach Broadway and his staff and his football team, because those guys didn't waver. They took the lead with a little bit less than 8 minutes left in the game, and, it stayed there. But I have to say, our guys went out. We gave effort. We had 19 penalties the week before, and we ended up with 3 penalties on Saturday, which, I was pleased with us cutting down our penalty mark. But we just have to make sure that we take advantage of opportunities when they're put in front of us and not let them escape.
And speaking of opportunities, late in the game, after A&T scored the go-ahead touchdown and you had to punt, A&T went on a long drive, but your defense made a big play on 4th down to have a chance at potentially putting up a game-winning touchdown. Just talk about the drive and desire that your defense had despite their backs against the wall to put the offense in position to win.
Well, the defense, as I said, they were put in some tough situations on Saturday. We had a few too many 3-and-outs, and they stepped up to the challenge each time, and ended up making decent plays. I think when we went back and, we actually watched the film, 2 disappointing plays. We had 2 of our seniors bust coverages, which they scored on twice. And, the other big play they had was the quarterback throwback, which was a great play call. We don't say anything. We can't say anything about that one. It was just a great play call. But that last drive, our defense knew they had to have a stop to give our offense an opportunity to go back and move the ball down the field. And we knew, with it being 24-20, we needed a touchdown. A field goal wasn't going to do it. So our defense stepped up. They went out. They got a big stop. And the offense went back out. We moved the ball down the field. And I think, everyone that was there saw the end of the game. And it was just the way you want a football game to end. I mean, you wish you're on the other end of it, but no one wants to see blowouts. We all talk about it, but it was a great football game. And on our Hail Mary, which we practice really almost every day, we had to take our starting receivers out, and we put some backup guys. There were 2 backup guys. One of the backup guys that went in, he just didn't follow through. If he had gone to the back of the end zone where he was supposed to be, A&T's guy actually missed the ball. He tipped the ball, and it fell 2 yards right behind him in the end zone. So, things like that happen. Again, you take your hat off to Coach Broadway and his staff and his team, because they didn't quit. And those guys continue to fight, and we knew that going in. Championship football teams are going to fight, and they're going to claw and scratch until the end. And that's exactly what they did.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. We have a question from the line of Joshua Jackson with the Rattler Football Network. Please proceed. Sir, there are no questions at this time.
Coach, this week you're back at home. It's homecoming, and you're playing a Hampton team that you have not seen since 2014. Hampton comes in, obviously, with undefeated records. So just talk about the challenge the Pirates pose this weekend, in addition to the homecoming festivities surrounding the game.
Well, you have a good football team rolling in town. Like, as you said, they're undefeated. And Coach Maynor, he's going to have his guys ready to play. It's obvious by their record that they're playing some good football. And watching them on film, they have some young receivers, but they're young receivers with talent. Those guys can play. And, he has 2 backs that are sharing the load, and one is a downhill guy, and he has a quick scat back, and they both they use their skill sets well. You know, and he has a quarterback that manages the game very well. You know, we've been watching him for the last couple of days, and he does exactly what he's supposed to do when you watch this guy. He's not trying to do too much. He's managing the game, and that's what you want, you know, your quarterback to do. When you look back and you look at the O-line, he has some older guys on his O-line that you know, played a little bit, mixed in with two freshmen. But you can't tell that those guys are freshmen when you watch them play, because they play the game the right way. And he has a defense that's very active. They run around and they swarm to the football, and that's the way you win football games and continue to give yourself a chance to be successful.
And with homecoming, Coach, will you do anything different in terms of trying to keep your players away from the atmosphere, or are you the type of coach where you like to have a good balance, let them enjoy as much as they can, but get back to football when it's time?
No, I you know, every year, and it's been that way at a number of places I've coached, we let our guys know when homecoming gets here. That's what homecoming is for, alumni and for the fans. You know, we have a football game to play. And you know, homecoming is special. Homecoming is important, but we let them know, and we try to get them to understand that they can enjoy homecoming Saturday night after the football game's over.
And lastly, Coach, each week a name pops up on the stats. Doesn't get a lot of fanfare, but he's been pretty consistent. It's linebacker Devin James. Talk about his play and development as the season progresses.
Well, you know, Devin James, being a true freshman, he's light years away from where he probably should be, or people think he should be, being a true freshman playing. He has a great football IQ. He has an unbelievable motor. You know, the kid he loves to play football, and he plays the game the right way. You know, when you watch him play, you would think that he was definitely a junior, at least on the football field, because he reacts fast to a lot of plays. He understands where everyone should be lined up. He gets our whole defense lined up. You know, he calls everything. So when you look at a guy being a freshman like that, I'm glad he's not getting a whole lot of pub, but I'm sure the coaches that watch him on film, they know who he is, and they know what he can do. So, you know, we hope that Devin continues to improve. I'm glad that we'll have him around here for a few more years, because he's only going to get better. And I think, you know, the future for him is definitely bright in this conference, playing this game.
We're now joined by Delaware State head coach Kenny Carter. Delaware State picked up its first win of the season last week versus South Carolina State, and heads to Durham, North Carolina, to face North Carolina Central on Saturday for their homecoming. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good morning, Ryan.
Coach, after coming so close the past few games, you finally kicked the door in against a tough South Carolina State team. Just recap the game and talk about the emotions that was involved in the win.
It was really fun to watch our guys bring it all together. But at the end of the day, when we viewed everything, and I told them after the game, we played like we practiced. You know, we put it all together, and you know, we got so many injuries, and you know, we had some guys go down during the game, and you know, guys just kind of picked up and carried on. So when you have that happening and things start to work for you, and you start off with the lead, and you never really relinquish the lead, and then you battle through adversity. We had some bad things happen during the game, and our guys just fought through it, and that was a great sign, and that's what we needed. That's what we needed. So hopefully we roll forward going into the rest of the season.
And speaking of your opponent this week, you got the monkey off your back in terms of that win. And how long do you let them focus on the win? Because obviously it was something that everybody really wanted, but knowing that you got Central waiting right there for this weekend.
We went right in. The kids were great. They went right in the locker room after the game, and immediately they started saying, it's time for number two, time for number two, time for number two. So they get it. They get it. I mean, it'd be one thing if we were, just horrible and weren't playing and wasn't in games and didn't have the opportunity to win games. But our guys knew that we've been very close, and everybody that we play in the conference, everybody's pretty much almost about the same. North Carolina Central is a really good football team, and Coach Mack and his staff has done a great job. They always do. They're always very sound. They've been very consistent on defense and the things that they do, and offensively, I know they're trying to figure out who the quarterback is and have a lot of new young linemen, but their system is what it is, and their kids play hard.
And also, their homecoming, and they're coming off a big loss in terms of losing their winning streak last week. So just talk about playing a team as hungry as Central, because they're trying to get back into the thick of the conference race.
Heck, they ain't no hungrier than we are. So I mean, I'm sure they're upset about having their first loss in a long time in a conference game, and homecoming is homecoming. We our guys are excited and would care less about the fact that it's their homecoming, and we're gonna focus on us and give them the respect that they deserve, and look forward to playing another football game.
Coach, I know I asked about him last week, but it looks like this week he's showing consistency. As your quarterback, Keenan Black, he passed for 218 yards and was almost 50% passing. So just talk about his play and his development so far.
Keenan continues to every week become the quarterback that we thought he would. He had a great high school career, won a lot of games, state championship winner. He just had to kind of develop himself and really get comfortable within the system. And then, we've clearly adjusted some things that we've done on offense to put him in a position where he can take advantage of his skill set. So we're really excited to see him continue his development, and Jack too, for that matter. We're really excited about what we feel like he's going to become.
And once again, the name Trey Gross was your leading receiver by 1 yard last week. He had another good game in terms of leading the team in the yardage. Just talk about the consistency he's beginning to display week in and week out.
Trey is a great story. I mean, a guy that walked on and really has just worked and says nothing, just goes to work, and really has sparked the play of that position group. And we're just very excited about everything that he does, and he's still got a lot of football ahead of him, and a lot of development that he's going to have over time. But he's been a very, very pleasant surprise, and we look forward to watching him continue to produce for us.
And one thing I noticed, I'm looking at the stats from last week's game, and you only had 9 yards rushing, but you found a way to win the game regardless of what the stats say. Is that a testament to just everyone believing in themselves that they can overcome whatever situation is put forth in front of them?
It's a very interesting stat. I mean, obviously, South Carolina State is very, very good, very stout on defense. But the one thing we told our guys going into the game, and we had a sacks that took away from that, obviously. But the thing that's more important going into that game was that we took the Tony Dungy approach in the sense that when you run the football, there's a reason for it. It's time consuming. It beats up on defensive linemen. So when it gets to that point where you need to rush you need to be able to pass the football, and they have to pass rush. If they've been beat on and leaned on enough, it's going to affect them in the end. So it doesn't matter what the yards are, because in the end, it's either a W or an L. And so we would care less. I mean, we rushed it for 30 times, but we also had within that's hidden several third down conversions that were runs in critical situations. So, in the end of the game, all that matters is that it served its purpose regardless of yards, and we got what we needed to get, and that's a win.
And just talk about your leading tackle last week. I don't want to say his name wrong. Is it Niebauer?
Yeah, Jihad Niebauer. You got it. You hit it.
Yeah, talk about him, and because he's been pretty Similar to Lozano, I've seen he's been pretty consistent the last few weeks. So just talk about him, especially this past game.
It was a coming out party for him in the sense that he had one missed tackle, and then he really tackled well. We tackled really well at the safety position, and I told him in the team meeting on Sunday, I said, we've been trying to coach this position up and get you guys right, and for some reason it hasn't all come together. And I said, clearly God laid His hands on you because we just took it to the cross and it all worked out. So he played really well, and hopefully he'll continue to play that way.
And could you take us through once South Carolina State tied the game up at 14 early in the fourth quarter, and you answered with the field goal to go ahead 17-40. Could you kind of take us through that drive and what was said prior to the drive or during the drive for your team to battle back once South Carolina State tied it up?
Ryan, it was really an enlightening thing for us as a staff because when we I walked into the huddle and the offensive coaches walked in the huddle, and we didn't have to say a word. We didn't have to say one thing. The kids took total control of what had to be done. They asked what the play call was, and after that, they just went out and they just did their thing. And then we turn around.
Looks like Coach Kenny Carter was disconnected prematurely. If he logs back on, we'll try to get him in pretty quick. So if not, we'll go on to Coach Mike London at 10:43. So we will hold the line for the next minute for Coach Carter. If not, we will speak with him next week and go to Coach London. We're now joined by Howard University head coach Mike London. The Bison are coming off a 39-point win over Morgan State this past Saturday and head south to face South Carolina State on Saturday as the game will be shown on Flow Sports Football. That's Flow Sports Football. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm fine, Coach. Talk about last week's game as the defense made the big plays when needed, and your offense did what it had to do in order to come out with the big homecoming win.
Yeah, I thought our defense played well. When you limit a team, they had 7 points going into the fourth quarter, and the latter part of that scored a touchdown to make it 14. But I thought they did a great job. They were 1 for 13 on third downs and 0 for 2 on fourth downs. So that's significant, when you have a chance to do that. And then, all the stats, passing yardage and rushing yards, when you hold the team down to 7 points, that contributes to the opportunity for us offensively to have some explosive plays and allow us to make some plays and get up on them. So very happy for the players. I don't know how long it's been since we won a homecoming game, but or back-to-back games for that matter. So we're excited about what happened, but we know there's still a long season left to play, but we're excited about the opportunities that are presented, to still be in the hunt, so to speak.
And speaking of being in the hunt, the season heading into the final stretch, and this is new to a lot of players on the team in terms of competing for a title this late to the year. Is that something you really bring up each week, or you kind of let them focus just on the game at hand, even though there's a lot riding on each and every game at this point?
Sure. I mean, human nature always looks at, they read, they look at what's going on, what people are saying, but there's been a lot of positive reactions and reinforcement of that by performance on the field, which leads to opportunities to win. So, we control our own destiny. It's important that we focus on the most immediate task, and that's South Carolina State, which is their homecoming. So, it's important that, that no one lose focus. We won't let them lose focus. We have to understand that they're a series of 4 games, one game at a time playoffs for us. So not having been there might be a good thing for us because the way we are right now from a mentality standpoint is, mission possible. Anything's possible. So we'll keep doing that. We got to get ready for a very good South Carolina State team that you look at them, they, outside of one game, they were in every game, close in every game. Now, of course, they won a few games, but that's a good football team, and so our work will be cut out for us.
And speaking of the stat you mentioned earlier, it was 2014 the last time the Bison won back-to-back MEAC games. And also with South Carolina State, you have the top offense in the MEAC. They have one of the best defenses in the MEAC. And so both of y'all are colliding, and it's their homecoming. So what do you see with them that could cause problems for your offense?
Well, obviously, you look at the preseason defensive player of the year candidate is playing well, leads them in sacks, tackles for loss, tackles, hurries, everything. And so, defensively, they've done a great job in shutting, down the run. They play a 3-4. They play an eagle front, which is a zero nose and 2-3 techniques, and they cause havoc with your offensive line. And so, it's going to be important for us to be able to run the ball when appropriate, but also be able to throw the ball, at the opportunities. And then defensively, we're going to have to play good defense because, their defense keeps them in the game. And they, as I said before, they have low-scoring games. So, it'll be an execution type of game in terms of offensively and defensively, and particularly in special teams. I believe special teams might be one of the deciding factors because of where the ball starts, your average drive starts. So, again, it's a good football team. Coach Pough is, I've known him for a while. He's a very good coach. And so now we got to get our guys ready the first day for our preparation. It's a Tuesday practice to try to simulate their offense and their defense and come up with a game plan.
Coach, each week we see a new name on a defense that comes up big down the stretch. Could you talk about some of the players such as Dominique Smith, Brian Cook, and Leland Lassiter?
Yeah, it's we always talked about that, when you're playing team defense, obviously you always have guys that stand out. But, Brian, Cook is a true freshman who's starting for us, and to be able to get 2 interceptions was critical for us, 5 total for the day. But, to have an opportunity, him to have an opportunity to play the ball, and I told him to be aggressive on making a play for the ball. So it's great for him. Dominique Smith is a guy that kind of earned the starting position, that linebacker position, going back and forth. Probably had his best game, career game for him. So, and then Leland Lassiter again is a safety that involved in a lot of tackles. So it's important that we continue to improve as a team, both from a fundamental standpoint and the ability to minimize any of those issues that can cause you to lose with missed tackles, critical penalties at critical spots. So, those 3 guys are names that our defense is going to count on, and they'll continue to get better. And they're all 3, coming back too. So that's important as well.
And Coach, coming into the season, and by us mentioning all these new names, because there's another one I've been meaning to ask about Ty Freeland each and every week, because he's one of the leaders in the MEAC. Did you expect this many true freshmen to have this kind of impact this season, or it was kind of a situation where they just grew into their roles quickly?
Well, we came in January and implemented our schemes and systems for spring practice. Kalen Newton was a mid-year, so he was able to compete for that position. We recruited what we believe to be some very good high school players at the time that came in and in the summertime and competed for some of these spots. And so it's the competition that will allow you to get better as a team. Just because a guy played as a junior, as a senior, last year, we wanted to make sure that it was known that we're going to compete at every spot. And some of those guys that took those spots were freshmen. And we started 6 freshmen. Ty Freeland was a freshman that started. We've played about 18 freshmen. So, our team has become a better team. And the older guys have embraced it because they look at the results and they see opportunities to win games. So the competitive part of it for any team, obviously, is critical. Our guys are selfless guys, and it's important that, as long as the team does well, and, then the individual accolades will come. But, it's been a team focus for us thus far.
And lastly, if you can take us back last week, or the previous week against Dale State, Eli England had the big strip, and he ran the ball back for the long touchdown run off the fumble. And then this week, opening the third quarter, Kalen Newton hits Kyle Anthony on a 75-yard touchdown pass out the gate, which basically was probably the defining play. Talk about your team taking advantage of opportunities right there to kind of put the game away.
Yeah, it was the second play of the third quarter that Connell was able to hit Kyle Anthony for a 75-yard touchdown. You know, as I said, Morgan State, they they're a very aggressive team, and they get up in your face and play bump coverage, man to man, and Kyle was able to slip beyond their defender and make a catch right there. And not only that, it was another true freshman, and Aaron Walker that scooped and scored on a fumble. So that's three defensive touchdowns, this year, that we've had, and that's not common sometimes, So it's one of the things that defensively, we continue to kind of keep harping on about creating turnovers, but also the explosive plays and what Kyle Anthony did on that long touchdown. Ezra caught another big play touchdown. Those are the things, getting explosive plays, but then limiting the explosive plays in your own defense is what we try to focus on, and it just happened to work for us on Saturday. Hopefully it works again on this Saturday.
We're now joined by Norfolk State University head coach Latrell Scott. The Spartans defeated North Carolina Central this past weekend and returns home for homecoming to face the Tigers of Savannah State this weekend. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ryan.
Coach, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there, man. How about yourself?
I'm fine, Coach. Talk about last week's performance in Durham as you all defeated North Carolina Central for the first time since 1995.
Well, very proud of our kids for going in battle. Again, you can't credit Coach Mack enough, for the team and the atmosphere he's created down there. That's a very tough stadium to play in. The kids play hard, the fans get after you, and again, we're just thankful that our kids came out and jumped out early and were able to hang on and win the ball game.
And speaking of hanging on and winning, with Central trying to drive and it had two opportunities to tie the game late. Talk about what was said to your defense prior to them coming up with the two interceptions down the stretch.
Well, our defensive staff does a great job of preparing our guys for situations, and both kids said that they felt like they kind of knew what plays were coming. Kyle Archie, makes a great play on a screen pass to take the ball away from one of their players, and Ant Smith in the last interception just got into his zone and read the crosser. I mean, they've done a tremendous job of hitting us on crossing routes in front of Ant, so he just kind of sunk and was where he was supposed to be and made the play to seal the game for us on D.
And this week, you have homecoming coming up, and obviously, as you know, a lot of excitement across campus, especially coming off the win and just the festivities in general. As a coach, and from your experience, how much will you let the team partake in the festivities, and how much of it will be focused on football?
Well, it'll all be focused on football. We tell these guys that homecoming starts with them on Saturday after the game. And how much they're able to celebrate on Saturday night, depends on how hard they play on Saturday during the day. So, we're excited and glad to have all the alumni, friends, and fans back on campus here at Norfolk State. But at the end of the day, we need to go out and win a football game and stay in this MEAC race.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypad. We have a question from Lot Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please proceed.
That's Lute Williams. Lute, L-O-O-2, I gave you, so you pronounce it Lute. No problem. Coach, congratulations on the win.
I appreciate it, Lute. How are you?
I'm doing fine, man. Was that a kind of turn-the-corner win, you think, for your program?
Well, it's probably the biggest win that we've had, since we've been here. In the last 3 years, it's kind of a culmination of things coming together, but it's just one win. Obviously that one win, doesn't count for next week. So, the fan win was a big win for us, and we came back and didn't play well enough to beat Hampton. So, we've got to take the Central game for what it was last week and move forward to Savannah State.
Was the performance? I want you to talk about the performance of your quarterback Carter as well as Smith, particularly Smith first. Was that an aberration? 18 tackles, 2 interceptions, forced fumble, or has he been playing that way for you all year?
He's been playing that way all year. He's one of the top tackles in the conference. I think that's his second 18 tackle game. I'm pretty sure it's the most interceptions that he's had, but Ant's played like that, pretty much all year. He's a senior that realizes he's got a limited amount of games left to play his career, and he's performed very well for us. He's a local kid that was a walk-on when we got here and just kept on improving in the springs and the summers, and he's been a steady guy since we've been here.
And your quarterback, was that a big step for him? And does that mean he's going to end up breaking all kinds of Norfolk State records?
I just want him to keep completing passes and making the right decisions. The greatest thing about Pough is that he doesn't turn the ball over, or hasn't turned the ball over to this point. He's very smart with the football. He values the football. He doesn't take sacks. A lot of people get after our offensive line, about their production, but obviously this kid's not getting beaten up and he's not getting hit a lot. So I think that's better than most people give it credit for. But I mean, he makes our team go. He still makes 3 or 4 freshman mistakes in a football game, but that's something that we're willing to live with as long as he continues to be productive.
That thing that you're talking about, getting rid of the ball, not taking sacks, is that something you've particularly worked on, or is that something he brought with him from his high school experience?
Well, I think it's him understanding the game plan, understanding where we want the ball to go. Myself and my quarterbacks coach, we try to detail the game plan for him as much as we can to figure out what he likes and what he doesn't like and what he's comfortable with and what he's not comfortable with. But I mean, I think it's just it's a lot of it's him understanding what we're doing, understanding that we can't hold on to the ball forever, and he doesn't scramble nearly as much as our last quarterback did, and so he doesn't get himself in some of those situations to be sacked.
Is the Savannah State game what might be labeled a trap game? The fact that they're struggling to get wins.
We are too, Luke. So there's no way that we're not a team that I think can even think about a trap game. I think that's something for the upper echelon teams in the conference to worry about. But we're going to just kind of stay humble and stay focused, and we're still below 500, for the season. So we've got to continue to try to win ball games to reach some of our goals.
Got you, Coach. Good luck. Thanks for the answers.
Thank you.
There are no further questions at this time.
Coach Scott, speaking of Savannah State, talk about what you've been able to see from them so far during your early preparations.
Well, I don't think their record speaks as to who they are. They've been in some very close ball games, and they've lost those games. And I think what Coach has done down there is amazing. When you watch your kids on tape, they're organized, they're disciplined, they play hard on both sides of the ball. They've got good football players on both sides of the ball. I've struggled with Savannah State for the 2 years that I've been here. We beat them at our place 2 years ago on a last-second field goal and went down to Savannah and lost last year. So, it's a matchup for us that, we definitely have a respect for, and, we've got to make sure that our ducks are in a row to be successful on Saturday.
And before we close out for last week's game, when you went up 21-0, what was your message to the team on what to expect from Central, especially based on their past history? They've been proven to fight from any type of deficit.
Well, we expect what happened to happen. They're a championship football team, and they've won a lot of games because they've gone in and regrouped and come back out. Those kids came back out and played just like Jerry's teams always do. Fortunately, we were able to get Marcus in some man coverage and get another big touchdown late. But we know exactly what they would do in the second half in terms of how competitive they would be.
We will now cross the bay to talk with fourth-year Hampton University head coach Connell Maynor. Hampton had a successful homecoming this past weekend with a big win over Florida A&M to remain undefeated in MEAC play. and they will travel to Daytona Beach to face Bethune-Cookman for their homecoming this Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ron. How you doing?
I'm fine, Coach. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good, Ron.
Coach, last week's game was a roller coaster of emotion. That you took an early lead, a sizable lead, but then you fell behind late, but came back with a big score and stop to beat Florida A&M. Recap last week's win from your perspective.
Yeah, Ron, we got off to another good start, man. You know, we don't seem to have a problem getting off to a good start offensively or defensively. Was up 21-3, and then we let them get a touchdown before half to kind of cut into our momentum a little bit, made it 21-10. We had the ball coming out the second half and dropped a little screen pass early, and then 3 and out. And they scored, and they scored again, and they took the lead in the fourth quarter. You know, but to our guys' credit, you know, they didn't quit, didn't start pointing any fingers, and we mounted the drive because they got a penalty after they scored, gave us a short field, and we was able to take advantage of it and get in the end zone and retake the lead. And then our defense had to hold on. We had a 4-point lead, so they needed 7 points. They drove it down. And thanks to another penalty, holding call, that may have taken back a touchdown. And then it came down to a 4th down and 4 play, and we was able to stop them and win the game. So it was a very tough fought game, which we knew it would be. We knew FAMU had a great team, and Coach Wood is doing a great job with those guys. They're playing everybody tough just as well as everybody else in the conference is, man. And week in, week out, you got to be prepared to play for 60 minutes. And we made one more play than they did, and we was fortunate to come away with the win this week. We have to play better.
Well, also, Shy McKenzie had a career game, 140-plus yards rushing, and he had that big run to set up the go-ahead score for you all. Talk about I've read up on him and saw his past in terms of what he's had to battle just to get back to this point. Just talk about him, and is he getting back into form at this point of the year?
Yeah, I think he is, Ron. I think first of all, he was very patient, and you know, when Yaki was starting and getting most of the carries, Shy kept his head in the right place and never complained once about carries. And you know, I came from the ACC and Virginia Tech. You know, he's kept a level head and wait for his opportunities. And I tell my guys all the time, don't count your reps, make your reps count. And he got an opportunity to start and took advantage of the opportunity in his reps and had a great game and really put us on his back early and made some big runs and broke some tackles and played the way we thought he would be able to play. And as you said, he's been hurt before, and I think he's really just now rounding into form. It's been a year and a half, and now he's really back getting in football shape and starting to feel it again. So that's good for us that coming down the stretch, we got him at full go.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. So, we have a question from the line of Luke Williams with the Black College Sports page. Please proceed.
Thanks. Hey, Coach, congratulations, Connell, on the win.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
And listen, I know it's early, and I know you guys hate to talk about things for the future, but as far as you know, from a tie-breaking perspective, if you and A&T were to both finish undefeated, is it going to go back to that Sagarin ranking thing that determined a couple of years ago when there were 3 co-champs?
It'll go to head-to-head, and if both was undefeated, that means then it'll probably go to non-conference wins, points in non-conference games. And I would think that probably would go to A&T. They got 2 non-conference wins, so
right.
It'll probably go. It'll probably go to that, Luke. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what it is.
Maybe Ryan, if he has a chance, can speak to that. But what aspect of the game were you most happy about other than the win? I mean, obviously McKenzie got going, but what other part of the way your team performed?
Well, I thought I was pleased offensively. You know, we put up 31 points, and you know, last couple of weeks we've been getting out, scoring points in the first quarter, and then kind of just bogging down and shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit, and then the other team defense stepped up a little, and I was very pleased to see that we got off to a good start, and then we was able to sustain that and continue scoring, and especially in the fourth quarter when we needed to score. You know, we just went right down the field and scored and retook the lead. So I was very pleased with that. Defensively, I knew Family had a good offense and they could put up points. I saw the week before they scored 20 on A&T, and they fumbled one out the end zone that could have been 7 more points. So that could have easily been 27 points. So we knew they was capable of scoring a lot of points, and so I really wasn't that displeased that we gave up that amount of points because that's a good football team and a good offense. So probably with our offense scoring 31 points.
Delman, no turnovers, was kind of efficient. Is he coming along as a guy leading your team?
Yeah, that was the game plan, you know, to kind of lean on the defense and the running game as we brought Dale and the young receivers along. And, you know, last 2 games we haven't had a turnover. And I think that's going to be key the rest of the way. If we don't turn the ball over, we can stay injury-free. We have a chance to win every game that we play. So, yeah, but Dale is turning the corner and right on time. And now it's time for him and the offense to kind of step it up a little bit, as I alluded to all year long. And we did that this past week in scoring 31 points. So we need to continue to score points and continue to get better every week.
Now, I know going into South Carolina for their home. I'm sorry, you're not playing South Carolina. You're playing Bethune for their homecoming. They had a tough game against A&T. What's the big issue with Bethune this year?
Not getting the breaks. You know,
right.
they're 2-2. They very easily could be 3-1.
Exactly.
So they lost to Howard by 2 points, and they lost to A&T by 4, and they had a lead on A&T in the fourth quarter of that ball game. So Coach Sims got those guys playing well, man. I'm telling you, listen, Luke, teams are playing well. FAMU is playing well. Norfolk is playing well. Everybody is playing well. Everybody is one play, one penalty, one player away from winning games and losing games in this league. It's not a big difference at all from the best teams and the middle teams and the bottom teams in this league. So Coach Sims is just one, you know, you're going to need some breaks. You're going to need somebody to stay healthy and need the ball to bounce your way. Against that game against Howard, you know, Howard quarterback fumbled on the 1-yard line, and the ball went 7 yards deep in the end zone, and Howard fell on it instead of Bethune. You know, so those are the type breaks you need and to win games in this league. That's how tight it is. So, you know, just as well as Fam could have came here last week 3-1, 4-1, but it was the opposite. So, you know, I got a lot of respect for Coach Sims and Bethune-Cookman in that program. And, you know, we have to play better than we played this week, believe it or not, to beat them. And we got to keep playing better and better every week.
Our next question comes from the line of Ty Miller with SPN Sport. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Maynor, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, Ty. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I just wanted you to talk a little bit more about your defense. And there's 3 guys I want to give me some background on: Raheem Husky, Stephen Smith, and Owen Obasuyi.
Okay. Raheem Husky was here last year in the spring and wasn't able to get him eligible. Came from Marshall, and he's doing a tremendous job at middle linebacker for us. He's a player, man, and he's all around that ball. He gets interceptions and making tackles, and he's just our leader over there on the defensive side. He has a motor that won't stop and got a mouth that won't stop to go with that motor. Sometimes we have to tell him, "Shut up, Raheem," you know. But he's a baller, and Owen Obasubi, local guy, and that's been here, that we recruited when we first got here, and so he's been here all 4 years and understand that what we're trying to do and where the programs came from and where it's at now. And he's one of our leaders on the defensive line, and that's why those guys are playing so well. And then Steve Smith is another local guy from Norfolk, and so we got him from across the water, and he's a captain, and he's another one of our leaders over there on the defensive side of the ball that has a motor that just won't stop. And those guys are playing great, man, and that's why we're where we are right now, because of those guys on the defensive side of the ball that just got motors that won't stop and leading these guys on and off the football field.
And Coach, I know your reputation has been one of offense, but I want to talk about your defensive coordinator in terms of you guys giving up 64 points in the conference so far.
Yeah, I think we're doing a great job. Coach Ketch is doing a great job with those guys and the defensive staff of having some good game plans and then going out and executing them. But the front 6 and 7 are playing well. The defensive line are doing a tremendous job of not letting people get up on our linebackers, and then they putting pressure on the quarterback, and that's going to make our secondary play a lot better. But we're doing a great job of scheming people and making plays when we have to. We've given up some yards and a couple points, but when we have to make stops, then the guys are making stops and getting the job done.
Our 7th head coach this morning, joining us from Savannah State, is Erik Raeburn. The Tigers dropped a non-conference contest at Charleston Southern last week and will travel to Norfolk State this Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Coach, last week you're neck and neck with Charleston Southern last week for 3 quarters. Talk about your team's performance last weekend.
Yeah, really proud of how we played, particularly in early on. Kind of got away from us late in the second half, but that Charleston Southern's a good team. Back-to-back Big South champs, and heading into our game, defensively against FCS opponents, they had only given up 24 points all year, and so I was really proud of how our guys responded, and we hung in there. Particularly, offensively, we did a much better job down in the red zone than we had in games past, and from a defensive standpoint, they're a tough team to defend. They're a true option team, and we haven't played anyone like that all year. So it was a real adjustment for our guys, but I thought we played really hard, but unfortunately, just not good enough to stay with them for all 4 quarters.
And speaking of Charleston Southern, there was a FCS playoff team last year, and your team was right there with them for most of the game in terms of competition. Is that a sign that you're turning the corner in terms of developing a complete program, which means you compete with non-conference teams on a consistent basis?
I hope so. We had the lead, 17-14, and then they drove down and kicked the field goal, and then on the kickoff, unfortunately, one of our freshmen fumbled, and they got the ball on our 30-yard line and punched that in for a score, but we had our chances, but just made too many mistakes against a team as good as Charleston Southern.
And one name I noticed that's near one of the MEAC leaders in terms of fumbles is Taquise Johnson. Just talk about him and what has he done for your defense this year?
Yeah, he's one of our true freshmen that we're playing, and a guy we feel like is really talented, but obviously doesn't have the experience that you'd have when you're playing juniors and seniors. But man, he's played in every game for us. I think he started in almost all of them, and you can see him just getting more and more confident in what he's supposed to be doing, and he's really athletic. Runs to the football, and so I think that's why you see him recovering so many fumbles, because he is always around the football.
Coach Scott from Norfolk State mentioned past few years he's had dog fights with Savannah State, and this your opponent this weekend. Just talk about the Spartans from what you've been able to see on film.
Yeah, I guess the thing that really jumps off at you right off the bat is how good they are at taking the football away. They have defensively
they've created more takeaways than any other school in the conference. I think they had like 7 interceptions and 5 fumble recoveries just in MEAC games alone. And then, maybe equally as important is, they have done a great job on offense of protecting the football. I think they've only turned it over twice in MEAC games. So they're plus 10 in turnover margin in conference, and it's hard to lose or hard to beat a team when they have that kind of advantage in takeaways. So that'll be number one in my mind. In terms of being key for the game is we got to find a way to protect the football, because they have forced 3 or 4 turnovers against everybody, it seems like. So we've been preaching that. Obviously, it's important every game, but particularly this week because they are so good at getting the football away from you. We've been really stressing to our guys the importance of taking care of the ball.
And lastly, talk about just some of the players. Specifically, when I read up on him, Rutledge. He was a walk-on for you last year, and he was your lead tackler the other day. Did you expect when you first saw him for him to play a key role in your defense, or is just best player by committee?
I guess when I first saw him, I was impressed with him. I mean, he stood out. We felt like he could develop into a really good player for us, and he's on his way to doing that. I think he's a long, rangy guy. He can run. He's good open field tackler, and I think as he gets more and more comfortable in our system, I think he'll just continue to keep playing better and better. But we're really high on him, and think that he has a huge ceiling for us, and feel really fortunate that we were able to get him into our program.
And this is my last question. You're going back into conference play, and now you're going back and scheming against an offense that you're pretty more comfortable with, especially since Charleston Southern ran that option type offense. So just talk about jumping back into MEAC play and scheming against offenses you're familiar with.
Yeah, hopefully we'll play a little better against the run, than we did trying to defend all those option plays that Charleston Southern runs. But Norfolk presents a ton of challenges. Obviously they have been really disciplined with the football. Their quarterback particularly. As many passes as he's thrown, he just doesn't take chances and very accurate, and doesn't throw interceptions. So that'll be a real challenge for us to try and find a way to get pressure on him and hopefully get our hands on the football because he just has not made any mistakes in conference games. And then obviously the receiver Marcus Taylor has been dynamic. I think he leads the conference in all-purpose yards. If he's not first in receiving, he's up near the top in receiving as well. So he's a real weapon, and we'll have to try and find a way to slow him down. We'll never be able to stop him, but just try to not let him hurt us as bad as he's hurt everybody else. So it'll be a different scheme for sure, but it'll be a real challenge.
Our next call takes us to Orangeburg, South Carolina, as we welcome in head coach Buddy Pough of South Carolina State. South Carolina State fell to Delaware State last week and returns home for homecoming to host Howard University this Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How are you, Ryan?
I'm fine. Yourself?
I've been better.
Recap last week's contest versus Delaware State as what stood out from your perspective.
Well, we go up to Delaware and get behind 14-0 almost before we get started good, and played, kind of hard, for the rest of the game, to the point where we got back even, I guess maybe early in the fourth quarter,
and then we come back and give them another drive, and they get down and kick a field goal. And at that point, we don't answer the bell, so we end up getting beat 17-14.
And this week is homecoming, and kind of what I've asked other coaches who've been in similar situations or are about to endure it. What is your take on balancing students in terms of letting them enjoy homecoming, but also let them know that it's a football game also?
Well, we try to emphasize in most years that, the festivities are for the general student population and for our fan base. They come to see us play on Saturday, so, our job is to prepare, during the time of all of the going-ons and such, to actually be ready to play on Saturday. So we don't necessarily have time to get involved that much. But now this is an unusual circumstance for us in the fact that we're not playing very well right now, so we having to even overemphasize, maybe emphasize it even more, that we need to make sure that we do everything we can to try to right our ship, because we have had some pretty difficult times.
And this weekend, Howard University comes in the town, and you have one of the top defenses in the league, and they have one of the top offenses. So just talk about trying to battle Howard or what needs to be done in order to try to pull out a win.
Yeah, Howard's coming in here as maybe the hottest team in our league right now. They played very well, especially in the last few weeks against some of our conference foes and people that we've been able to draw comparisons with, and it's not good. They've got, I think, maybe one of the more dynamic young players on their team, the young man, the quarterback kid. And they also have, 3 or 4 receivers, 2 or 3 running backs, guys all over the stat sheets with, with some pretty hefty numbers. So not only, is the Newton kid, an improved guy, for that position for them, but he seems to have improved the rest of the people around him. So I've got to take my hat off to Coach London and his outfit. They've come in and done a nice job at Howard at this point, and we have our hands full with those guys this coming Saturday here.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypad. We have a question from the line of Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please proceed.
Good morning,
Mr.
Coach.
Williams.
How you this morning? Yeah, I got you. Good morning, Coach. How you this morning? I had it on mute. How you this morning, Coach?
I'm good, Lute. How are you?
Okay. Obviously, and I don't know if you heard Connell earlier talking about, at this point, you got 3-4 teams with 1 loss, 2 teams with no losses. Every game is close. Been through 5 co-champions, 3 co-champions. Finally, last year, you got a single co-champion. You think we're headed to a similar situation this year that may be co-champions when it's all said and done?
Lou, heck, I don't know. I'm so far down in the pool until I hadn't paid much attention to what's going on up there lately.
Right.
I guarantee you that's a scenario that I hadn't had a reason to explore. I don't know. I really don't.
I mean, but you've been right there, and nobody's blown you out. You've had opportunities to win all of the games, even the games that you've lost. Is parity, and I mean, coaches always talk about this, but is it any different now than it's been before? I mean, you had a long winning streak in this conference before. Central just had one that ended. Is it just a matter of time before the league catches up with whoever's in front based on law?
Yeah. I think that's probably the case, Lou. We've had a nice little run here recently of neat additions to our league, coaching-wise, and I think a lot of the schools have seen the benefits, have seen the merit of having good football. I think they immediately can attach, other parts of their university, to a successful football program. So with that being the case, then you're starting to see some of these teams actually benefit some. Central's, really come on. Howard looks like they get ready to come on. You're starting to see some benefits over at Norfolk and Hampton. All those guys, seem to be, really positive in every way and doing really well. So, yeah, I think you could possibly say that the league is getting to the point where, there's some parity coming into play. But, until somebody beats A&T here now, race, the last time I checked, they hadn't lost a game. Then I think, you probably still got a one-shot show there.
Yeah, I think Howard has one loss. Norfolk has one loss. You got a big one. You got a chance. Howard only has one loss in the conference. But let me ask you: did you see in Delaware State? A lot of people have been impressed with the way Coach Carter, even though they haven't gotten any wins, have come along.
Oh, you could see it was a possibility, and I tried to warn our guys. Coach, I don't think we were, surprised by the fact that those guys beat us. I'm sure people were surprised, but at the same time, I was not. I told some folk earlier in the week that we needed to really play better than we played, especially on offense, because I knew that this crowd. And in the Howard game, just to give an example, those guys were going in to score, with no time to go in the half, 17-10 on Howard, and they make that score instead of pitch the ball and somehow or another. I still haven't figured out exactly how that ball got in Howard kid's hand, but he takes it back for a score. So instead of them going up 17-10, they're down 17-10 at the half. So from that point, it didn't happen for them. But who's to say what might have happened in that particular scenario? So my point is that Delaware was always kind of on the cusp of doing it, and I told our guys that was the possibility. So at that point, it actually happened.
Coach, are you concerned about the way your offense, your inability to score points, and any changes planned in terms of hitting?
Luke, you gonna punish me this morning, huh? You know I'm concerned. Why would you answer that? Listen to this here. Yeah, I'm trying to keep them jumping off the roof. How about that deal? Yeah, I'm concerned. Yeah, we're doing everything we can think of to fix it, but right now we think we got a people problem. And it's kind of hard to change those things, as quickly as you need to, to fix some of these kind of things, especially if you don't think you got the people.
We will now move on to Greensboro, North Carolina, as North Carolina A&T State head coach Rod Broadway now joins us. The Aggies defeated Bethune-Cookman last weekend and are off this weekend for the first time this season. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ron. How you doing today?
I'm fine. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, Coach, let me start off before I get to my questions. You fishing this weekend, or?
No, we're going to recruiting. We're going to recruit, man. Got work to do. You got any spots up there I can come to and fish?
Hey, Coach, we open the doors, strictly water, so you come up, I'll put you either direction.
All right, brother.
Well, Coach, recap last week's game as your team battled back late to come out with a big win over Bethune-Cookman.
Okay, it was a dogfight, of course, and we knew by watching tape that Bethune had made tremendous improvement and was playing really well. And our kids hung in there, made enough plays to win the ball game. And I'm extremely proud of them for hanging in there, and they kept playing to the bitter end and gave us a chance to have a successful game. But it was a really good game and well-fought game and a well-played game. I think with Bethune, Coach done a great job down there. Those boys are getting better.
And with the game on the line late, you kind of had to resort deep into the playbook and had the quarterback catch a pass to kind of generate some offense. Talk about the aggressive play calling in order to try to pull out the game.
Well, we've been practicing that thing all year. All preseason we've been practicing, and we just thought it was a good time to call it, and absolutely worked. Because they were running, to the football and stuff, and we thought we could hit it, and of course we did. So it was a big play on our part, and help us to go down and put points on the board.
And one thing I've asked Coach Sims earlier. It's late in the game, you're ahead, and Bethune gets the ball back after they sacked you all on fourth down. Just talk about what did you tell the defense, or what was relayed to the defense in order to stop them on that last drive?
Well, just, the game's on the line. I mean, there's not much you can say at that time. I think everyone knew what was at stake and what we needed to do. And, actually we was trying to just run the clock out. We could have kicked the field goal there and made it a 6-point game, but we kicked one early and it was a low ball coming out, and I didn't want to take that chance again. And, I thought we could get about 7 or 8 more seconds off the clock there, but at least if we did get a first down, and, of course, we end up getting sacked and they get the ball and we were able to get them stopped.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now take questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. We have a question from the line of Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please proceed.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Not bad at all, Coach. I heard Ryan start the question, then somebody else called me on my other line, so I didn't hear. Was that Flea Flicker? Was that your call? Was that something you've had in the bag and just waiting for the right opportunity? How'd that work?
Yeah, we've been practicing all season. We practice it every, couple times a week actually, and we just thought it was a good time to run it. We needed to get a playoff, and of course, we was getting, especially the first half, they got us pretty good defensively. We couldn't get back to the line of scrimmage. I thought our guys did a much better job in the second half of getting a head on the head and getting to the second level and creating a little running space in there. So we had them off balance a little bit and was able to make a play.
Now, after you went down 20-14, were you surprised that Bethune-Cookman went to another quarterback?
You know what? No, I'm not surprised, but I had enough to say grace over trying to worry about what my guys was doing, and but he can run now. I mean, you watch that guy; he can make some plays, and the other one, both those quarterbacks, I think, are pretty good. One can beat you running, and the other can beat you throwing. So. We were very fortunate to get out there with a win.
And I don't know if Ryan asked you this either, but is there a best time for a bye week? Is this? I mean, it is what it is. It's here, but is there a best time for it? Would you prefer to have it earlier or in this kind of time? What's your preference?
Well, actually, ideally, you'd like to have it at mid-season. Game 5 or Game 6, not Game 8. So it's come at a good time for us, simply because we played 8 in a row and we beat up and played some really good competition and gives us a chance to rest up and go recruiting and hopefully get some guys back for the Norfolk game next week.
Okay, Coach. Good luck. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, brother.
Our next question comes from Ty Miller with SPN Sport. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. Good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm good, Ty, and I hope you are.
I'm doing fine, Coach. I read your post-game comments after the win Saturday. You talked about how difficult it is to be 8-0 at this point. Can you expound on that, too? Because a lot of times I do think people take it for granted. And also, Coach Maynor talked earlier about how hard the conference is. Can you also speak on that as well?
Yeah. It's, it's tough winning a game, much less 8 in a row. So we've been very fortunate to have won 8 in a row, especially with a Division I team on our schedule. So we're very happy to be in the position we're in. But our guys have played well for the most part and deserve to be where we are. On the other hand, this thing is about to get good in this conference right now because there's so many teams with opportunity to win this championship. So every team's got to come ready to play from this point on, and there's some tough games left. So anything can happen here. It's a new season now for everybody, and the conference has gotten much better, and the competition has gotten much better. And you can see it around the league, and as you watch tape, you can see, you can see the improvement that Norfolk's making. You can see the improvement Delaware State's making, Savannah's making, and and all those teams. All you got to do is turn the tape on, and it's a very competitive league right now. Even the teams that doesn't have winning records are very competitive and doing some really good things on the field and getting better.
Coach, during this time of year when you get a chance to have a bye week this late into the season, and you talk to recruits about attending North Carolina A&T, how key is it for the success that you're having right now, and how many times in the past have the breaks been key to you wrapping up a recruit this time of year?
Well, we try to get out and see as many as we can here in the next couple of days. Well, this weekend actually, and that you win with players. You can talk about coaches and all this stuff, but the bottom line is simple. Players win ball games, so we got to go out and find some players that can come in here and help us. And it's simple how we do it. It's just a puzzle. We just try to fit the right pieces in the right spots and go from there. So it's going to be critical for us to continue to get some good players in here.
Hey, Coach, thinking back to when you first went to see Tariq Cohen, I remember a story you told about one of the coaches kept telling you need to go see this kid in Bunn, North Carolina, and you finally went to see him. Thinking back to then and looking at him now throwing passes in the NFL, what are your thoughts on from the first time you went to see him to where he is right now?
You know what? Unbelievable. Little small high school in Eastern North Carolina, little small kid from Eastern North Carolina that no one recruited. Came here, and the rest is history. Unbelievable. Now he's on the big stage and making plays. Every week he's making a play for him here or there, and he's a step away from making a couple plays. But they're seeing things that we had an opportunity to see for 4 years, that this kid can play, and his size isn't that big of a factor, and because he's such a special talent.
And finally, Coach, how much may his story be a factor in landing another key recruit that could end up doing the same thing for North Carolina A&T?
Well, you get the leading rusher in the history of this conference, and I don't know if I'll be around long enough to see that time, because those kids don't come along too often. Everybody's calling now. Well, we got another Tyreek for you. We got another Tyreek, and that he was a special talent. He's a once every 15, 20 years type players that you don't have an opportunity to coach or see that often. I told an alumni group a couple of years ago, sit back and enjoy, because you're watching greatness. You may not realize, but you're watching a kid that's absolutely a great football player, and of course he is. And but like I said, everybody, and I think Tyreek's done a lot for black college football and the small people, because everybody's giving those guys a chance now.
We will close out this morning's teleconference with our final head coach and Jerry Mack of North Carolina Central. The Eagles fell to Norfolk State this past Saturday and will host Delaware State for homecoming on Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ryan.
Coach, last week your team battled back late despite the early deficit. Just talk about their will to compete despite the overall outcome.
Well, I thought the second half the guys really played pretty much well. You can't put yourself in a situation where you're down 21 points in the first half and think you're going to come back on somebody after that. But overall, second half, they did some really good things offensively and defensively. But we held them to one touchdown in a man-to-man situation. Offensively, we put up almost 300 yards in the second half. But I really just didn't want to be in that kind of predicament. Shouldn't have been in that kind of predicament. But it is what it is. And, I was happy to see that we did have some fight about us to try to fight back and win.
And also, even though you're down one game, the goal for the MEAC championship is still within sight. How have you relayed that message to the team, especially right after the game?
Yeah, we were just more disappointed in the way that we performed on last Saturday. I think the goal is really not so much MEAC championship right now. It's just to try to get back on a winning streak and try to figure out a way to try to beat Delaware State. We got some things internally we got to clean up as far as going forward. So we know in order to do anything, win any game, we got to try to clean up ourselves.
And speaking of Delaware State, the Hornets come in with a lot of momentum after getting that big win over South Carolina State. Just talk about what you've seen from them early on in preparation.
Well, I see the team that keep getting better and better. Coach Carter's done a really good job of getting in there. He's changed the personnel. They're a very young team. Got a lot of freshmen and sophomores. They're playing on the football field. So whenever you got a team like that, you're going to see the growth and the maturity in your team each week. And I think that's what you saw last week. For them to get the win against a perennial power in South Carolina State just shows that those guys are playing with a lot of confidence. They're believing in what Coach Carter is trying to instill in them, and they're continuing to get better.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, to register for a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Luke Williams. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, every coach wants to win every game, but how do you deal with the end of a winning streak? Is it routine in the sense of it's another game? You could have lost plenty of games before that. How do you handle it in terms of the psychology of your team?
I think we just got to go back to work. The biggest way to get over something is just to kind of move on and go forward to the next opponent. You know, we talked about it on Sunday as we came in, and obviously everybody was extremely disappointed. But I think, going forward, we just got to continue to try to figure out a way to get better. We knew we was going to have some obstacles this season, and that's what any season presents, different obstacles and adversity. And, the best way to get over it is try to go forward and put forward a great game plan and try to get a win for homecoming this week.
I think Connell said that, a bounce here, a bounce there, a break here, a break there determines a lot of the outcomes of these games. You have been able to close out a lot of close games in the past. Was it trying to play with a backup quarterback? Was that part of the breakdown Saturday? And was Caldwell hurt in that game, or was it because of his struggles earlier?
I think the first half we just played very bad. I think they executed better than we executed in the first half. I think that's the bottom line to that first half of play. The second half, I think Nair Ramadan was doing some good things. He had led us down the field and scored a touchdown. Our intention was to put Chauncey back in the game, but Nair was doing some really good things. So we always say, no different than what our running back situation is. Whoever is hot and is playing well, that's what we're going to stay with. We felt like we had some momentum with Nair, so we continue to stay with him.
And is it wide open this week as to which one of those guys will start in your game this week?
I think it is. We're going to evaluate them today and tomorrow, and we should figure out exactly on Thursday or early Friday who's exactly going to be the starter to open up the game with on Saturday. But it is we're going to continue to look at them and see what the game plan and see how they come here and study and execute the game plan today in practice and tomorrow in practice.
What's your experience as a head coach, Jerry, in terms of, I think 4 of the games this week are homecoming games, including yours. Is homecoming something that gets the players fired up to play, or is it something that is that is like the opposite because of all of the festivities and whatnot?
I think during the week it presents some distractions, and you as a head coach or you as a player as well, you allow it to be a distraction if you want to. Especially during the week. I think when you talk about game day in itself, I think it can create a lot of energy and a lot of buzz because there's a lot of people there. It's a big crowd, and the guys like playing in front of the type of environment it is on that Saturday. So it's just different during the week. You're just trying to limit the distractions for the guys, and as a player, you got to be smart enough to limit those distractions as well because people are going to be probably trying to pull you in a lot of different ways with all the festivities, and you got to be intelligent enough and smart enough to not do some of those things because you got to stay focused throughout the week.
Last question for you. You lost a lot of experienced guys on both offense and defense, including the quarterback who have been with you for the longest time. Just in terms of offense, do you have a leader on the offense, a guy who is a veteran who's a leader, or have you had to kind of rely on young people?
Kind of a little bit of both. I think Jason Murphy, one of our receivers, he's been doing a good job of trying to give that inspiration and that vocal leadership that we need on the offensive side of the ball. Ramon Simpson has done a good job of voicing some of his opinions and things like that and trying to get the guys going. But also, too, just like any other team, it's some of those young guys that they're still trying to feel their way through, trying to find exactly what their role is from a leadership perspective. Even though they might play a lot of snaps, yet it's still, sometimes those guys are a little hesitant to speak up. So it's been a little bit of combination of both this year.
Good luck on Saturday homecoming.
Thank you.
No further questions at this time.
Coach, last thing I would like to ask is, you look at the stats, and your defense pretty much played the form, held Norfolk to 278 total yards. But then I think what might have got lost offensively, you had another big week. You had 501 total yards. Just talk about the growth of the offense, and is that a positive sign, especially with the season coming down the stretch?
Well, I think we are getting better on offense. The guys are starting to understand a lot more about what we're trying to do from the execution phase. We're doing a lot of different things, playing some different guys that are all coming in the game, and they're finding a way to make plays for us. And that's what I really am proud of that. We kind of got away from the game plan when you get down 21-0 in the course of the game. You start playing against the clock some. So that made us probably throw the ball a little bit more than we would have liked to have thrown the ball. But it is what it is. And, when you had to be put in those situations, those guys came up and they executed some plays. So it did kind of open up our eyes to see that, hey, going forward, we may be turning the corner on offense, but we got to do a better job. At the end of the day, our job is to score more points than our opponent, and we got to figure out a way to do that down the stretch.